Hi, Filter here. Make my milkshake or hashtag milkshake or whatever the hell it's called. From what I understand, it started out with Heather Antos of Marvel Comics, basically saying after a hard day's work or a hard week's work, posting a picture of herself having a milkshake. A few salty comments later, and suddenly it's now some BS about women in in comics. Does this sound familiar, people? We've heard this ridiculous argument before. Remember, it was women in gaming, but it really had to do with sort of a bunch of other crap that had to do with when ethics was the real reason. And but this time, it's not so much as ethics, but it is a virtue signaling and lousy writing and horrible editing. I'm hearing stories about how comics or in Marvel is literally rife with spelling and grammatical errors, all the while virtue signaling. They say that there's maybe a few of them that are relatively decent. They say Heather Antos is decent, but G. Willow Wilson, not so much. The writer for America Chavez, not so much. And they all seem to have this weird sort of thing, a mindset, be it Riri Williams, America Chavez, and the like, and Squirrel Girl. It's all sort of, OMG, I totally have to, fill in blank, stop, fill in blank, this guy. It's never something like, oh my god, I'm in over my head. Oh, what should I do? What should I do? There's no innovation. The characters seem dull, more like written as not from the fantasy of that most people have, but more or less a political fantasy, a sort of revenge fantasy that they have for the people politically they do not like. The fact that they needed to take certain characters and make them into, I guess, especially the bad guys, into caricatures of conservatives, Donald Trump and the like. And where what was it? The where somebody said the Aiden Paladin actually said that she got into a situation where wow, they made the Red Skull seem reasonable, and the liberals' retort was, well, Hitler was seemed reasonable at first. And I'm like, okay. At that point, you really reply, yeah, Hugo Chavez seemed reasonable. Maduro seemed reasonable at first. Stalin seemed reasonable at first. Yeah, do you? Um, Fidel Castro seemed reasonable at first. Do I need to go on? You just basically throw that at him. Don't try to justify or project the crap that you already feel. At this point, I think Marvel needs to let this thing implode. Just let it implode, and then hire somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. Now, I don't know whether Jim Shooter's all SJW, but I wouldn't mind that man coming back to Marvel. I mean, if he's SJW these days, I would, and somehow or another, I doubt that, but if he is, well, like I said, the Jim Shooter of back in the day needs to walk back into Marvel and say, enough is enough. Stop giving me Tumblr art. Stop giving me virtue signaling. If you're going to go political, be subtle. Subtle allegory. That's how we did it with X-Men. That's how we did it with the Hulk. That's how we did it with Fantastic Four. That's how we did it with Avengers. Subtle allegory. Don't bang everybody over the head with your politics. Because not everybody who reads comic books is into your politics. But as I said, when this thing happened, I go to my local comic shop not too recently, and I know my local comic book shop owner. He's a big Democrat, and there was some guy in there, and he was a white knight, and he immediately just accepts the fact that it's guys. There was some customer there. He just immediately started going on this little tirade about how it's boys and these man babies who can't get out of their parents' bedroom, how they can't stand a girl writing comic books. All the while, this guy probably saw some of the salty things that the comments on the Twitter, but never looked at all the other things on Twitter about the bad writing, the grammatical errors, the virtue signaling. That's completely gone. That's completely ignored. That's completely erased. They don't want to pay attention to that. So you have to realize when again, if Marvel is going to implode, then again, I hope somebody is going to be there to pick up the pieces to get things back the way that they were supposed to be. We're talking real storytelling, real artwork, not this half-ass Tumblr shit. I've seen better artwork. When I look at Squirrel Girl, I've seen better artwork in from those third-party independents that came out in mass back in the '90s. Right after Image started, there was a host of other people who were just trying to push out a bunch of stuff. Their own comics, and God bless those guys. I mean, they tried. It didn't catch on, but at least it's out there. I've got a few of them in this place right now, and again, they were all put out by, and like I said, if you look at it, the artwork is far superior. Uh, just yesterday, I'm at my Goodwill store, and I come across Captain Victory and his Galactic Rangers, drawn by Jack Kirby, and I just kept remembering I think issue one, I way back in the day. I can remember. Well, I had issue two. I picked up issue two, and I was just reminded of how fun it was to pick up that comic. Granted, it didn't have the same gravitas of Fantastic Four or the New Gods, but it still was just really good to look at. Jack Kirby just drawing crazy ass shit for the sake of crazy ass shit. I mean, what is it? It's its 100th anniversary. So, you know what? I salute that man. 8 ways till Sunday. And like I said, there was always a joy when you picked up a comic book. You look forward to the battle, the struggle, and then when it ended, you couldn't wait to get to the next issue to find out how the story was going to end. That's all you wanted to do. And now, like I said, we've got comics which are just god awful. The characters actually make no sense whatsoever. Unstoppable Wasp. Janet Van Dyne, who was the original Wasp, first of all, she's supposed to. If I remember, she was this fashion diva. She liked to look girly. She liked to look pretty. She liked to look hot and sexy. You see her in Unstoppable Wasp. She's wearing a Hillary Clinton pantsuit and sporting a Rachel Maddow haircut. Huh? Same thing goes for Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. Before she had long hair, she was gorgeous. She wore that bikini outfit. Now she looks more like almost like a linebacker. One of those like a tomboy. Nothing against tomboys, but we're talking about the the best way to describe it. She looks like Sally Cohn, that reporter who's in like total denial of Sharia. And then when you get some of the other characters, and for some weird reason, the characters who, for some weird, like I said, for some weird reason, seem to be in the middle of puberty or haven't reached puberty yet. They're all like A and B cups. None of the women in the comics seem to be a C cup. Last thing you want to do is show a girl with breasts. A woman with breasts. Heaven forbid. Mockingbird used to have a rack. Then they sort of flattened her out. And I've heard it said by Aiden Paladin is that some of these characters are me, I, me. I think the doctor said in one episode, 3 eyes and one breath makes you sound like an egotistical young lady. You have to watch that. It's Cage Banderzani last scene. Colin Baker's first appearance. But they're all. I mean, just the sounds of it. We're going to science the hell out of this. We're going to science this. We're going to. Okay, you girls want to learn science. Wonderful, but I don't think I've ever heard girls who are interested in science talk like that. I might be old, but hey, I at least know that much. Okay. Oh man, it's just one stupid thing after the other, and quite frankly, I think it's high time it ends. It's just got to end. It's not even fun anymore. Comics used to be fun. They're not. They're these horrible things where it's like yeah, written by teenage girls trying to tell their innermost secrets. There's how can I put it? And a lot of lesbians in it. A lot of lesbians, which is kind of off. And I'm not trying to say that there's nothing wrong with being gay. No, I'm just simply saying in these books there's like tons of lesbians in it, and it's like, what the hell? Am I watching the L word? What am I missing here? Is this the L word in comic form? Okay, I can accept that, but almost everybody's a lesbian and all the dudes are morons. Or they're white knights or cucks. And anybody who does not follow again, if they don't follow the rules of feminism, somehow or another are reduced to knuckle dragging monsters that don't know what the hell they're doing. Or they do know what they're doing, but they're all about enforcing patriarchy or some crap like that. Like I said, I think the Marvel implosion is imminent. It's imminent. It's going to implode, and from the ashes, something is going to rise up and take the reins of this company. I was always hoping that somewhere along the lines, the stockholders would take some of these guys to the woodshed and remind them that they are a business. They're in a business of selling comics and entertainment, not shoving down a political opinion down everybody's throats. Because let's face facts, nobody's buying. I don't know if I've told this story before, but interesting thing. I used to work at a general store, and in that general store, they sold magazines and comic books. And I learned how they determine sales. A store would get 10 copies of um, Spider Man, 10 copies of Batman, 10 copies of Superman, 10 copies of Avengers, 10 copies of X-Men, that sort of thing. Now, and then they would get some of the more, 10 copies of Archie. Now, by the end of the month, after they're put on the rack, they would have to be picked up and reclaimed. I always used to think that they just threw them out. But no, the distributor came over, picked them up, and counted what was left. So if they came back and found that there are 7 issues, 6 to 7 issues of Superman, that means the sales are relatively decent. If there are 4 to 5 issues of Batman and Spider-Man, that means sales are really good. And if there's like 3 issues or no issues of X-Men, sales are really good. Same with Avengers. But if comics were coming back, let's say, I remember when Nova was out, and out of the 10 copies, um, 8 to 9 come back. That means that sales were somewhat poor. And that's how you determine whether or not a comic is selling. And from that point on, he says, okay, either we have to do a gimmick, or we have to do something, or we cancel. Now it's not done that way, from what I understand. They just ship them out, and there's no reclamation afterwards. There's no real reclamation afterwards. So there's no real determination as to the sales. Well, I just thought I'd get that out. At least that's what I was told at the time. So, well, until then, I'm Filter, and make mine Marvel again. Please make it Marvel again, and we can get rid of the teenagers. Make mine Marvel again. Until then, I'm Filter. I'm gone.